Good morning, dear colleagues. We start our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and I give the floor to Sergiy Leschenko, MP, and Sevgil Musaieva-Borovyk, senior editor of the Ukrainska Pravda. Topic is Manuscripts Don't Burn, Black Accountancy of the Former Party of Regions, Surnames, Sums and Dates.
Доброе утро.
Good afternoon, good morning. Dear colleagues, we start our briefing about the documents that were made public and that are within the law enforcement services. These are the expenditures and corruption schemes that show the level of corruption and dirty money in Ukrainian policy. These documents show how Party of Regions was financed, how this money was spent, and what the source of their origin. Deputy Head of SB Viktor Tripak provided these documents to law enforcement bodies. These documents were on our hands and we got it several months ago. So these are papers, documents, that some huge sums of money were got for political activities. Here it is said, so there are names of people, sums that they got, and also for what purposes this money was obtained. We have 22 pages of documents. On 2012, and this is information provided by people anonymously. And maybe there are more documents and they will be provided to the Anti-Corruption Bureau. From these documents we may see that expenditures were $66 million for the Party of the Regions, and the part of the documents is absent about the main part of the campaign of 2012, so I believe that more money was spent. From the documents we make public, we have only these documents. So about the bribes to CEC members, the bribes in millions of dollars, so this money for bribes to deputies from other factions, for voting of deputies of other factions in the interest of Party of the Regions. This money that was paid to third forces, third parties, and parties that are mentioned in this list is Nasha Ukraina, Our Ukraine, and Communist Party. So maybe in other materials there are mentions of other parties that declared that they do not know anything about it. And Leschenko also said that there will be some leakage of information, but in the documents that we have that are in Ukrainian Pravda newspaper, there is no mention about Leschenko or his party. Also, there is no mention about Svoboda party. Maybe these politicians, they just decided to prevent actions against them. I don't know about their motivation. But in this material, there's no mention about Leschenko and other parties. And Our Ukraine was financed from the sources of Party of Regions, and also Communist Party also was financed by the Party of Regions. And this is stated in the documents that were made public in the Ukrainian Pravda newspaper. And you can see infographics, and you may see the expenditures and who got this money. And also we analyzed these documents, and we saw that the main curators of the Party of the Regions in 2012 were a former deputy general and the deputy Vitaly Kaluzhny, they got money for the activities of the party. So this expenditures show that Ukrainian politics is very corrupt, and in order to support party, region spent 66 million in 2012. So in a year, maybe these expenditures will be more than $100 million. This money goes from the state budget and from corruption schemes. And it provides understanding for us that we should change legislation and make the financing of the parties transparent. So there are also interesting figures in these documents, how the money were paid for paid journalism and for loyalty materials, and they in the ICTV and Interchannel, and about $1 million a month was spent for this, and also they provided some money to regional media, to FM radio stations, but the main sum was obtained by the central channel. So this was provided during election campaign, and they placed political advertisement, and there was some political advertisement that was observed, and it was impossible to finance it outside fund because that would result in scandal. And these are the money for the paid journalism, and this money went unaccounted. So, and this is revelation that is now going on. It convinces us that we are on the eve of difficult things that should be done. We should change the law on elections. We should adopt the law on limitation of ban of advertisement of political parties. That is the main resources that require budget funds through that goes through party balance, and also we should understand that we should adopt and introduce the system of e-declarations of party expenditures. You know that this law was adopted, but the National Anti-Corruption Bureau did not adopt the form for this. That's why political party cannot report and say where this money goes from. And if we get this information, we will start the process of clearance, and I believe that now these schemes still work, and this document of parity of regions that were taken by the journalists, but also they are in the hands of other political parties that are financed from illegal sources. So this list was published in Ukrainska Pravda site, and we analyzed the documents, but we didn't make conclusions or investigations yet. It is done. This document is provided for the journalists. They can see them in the open access by their own eyes, and the journalists can carry out their own investigations and write their own materials. They can find information there, and there are many topics for publications and for journalist investigations. And also we addressed to law enforcers to carry out audit and to carry out investigations on the episodes that have direct indicators of corruption. And the figures that are stated there are many offenses, many cases of abuse. But the main problem is bribes to CEC members. And these people, they continue to carry out their duties. And this episode should be investigated in the nearest future, and those guilty should be brought to responsibility. And also there is an issue that that people paid, they sacrificed their life for the freedom, but other people just bribed other people and went unpunished, and this shows the situation with the money. So this is about 3 million hryvnias, and it is for the second part of 2012. But I believe that there was really more money. And also it highlights those bribing of deputies in 2012, and Gerbakov is a person who got the money for voting, and he was the head of the group of the deputies, reforms for the sake of the future, as I remember, and he got money for voting. And we compared the information, and there is also a link to Rybakov return statement, and he got the money and he signed the documents, and also we compared the signature of the deputy, Vitaly Kalyuzhny deputy, in open sources, and this document that is below, and with numerous signatures in these documents, they coincide, and I believe that for the long time in the period we see that this financing went through a special group in the Party of Regions, Evgen Gener, Vitaly Kalyuzhny, Leonid Kazhara, and other deputies that create a special scheme of money laundering, and this money were paid to the regional organizations of Party of Region for political PR, for buying votes, to providing bribes to CEC members. So this is information that should be investigated by National Anti-Corruption Bureau. And now maybe questions. Thank you, Sergiy. Now questions. Please introduce yourself first.
Good afternoon, Fifth Channel. Gerasimova, why today have you published these documents? When did you receive them initially? This money, they could be from the national budget. Could it be proved? This concerns why we publish this information today. As for me, I received this array of data analyzed in May. It seems to me on 9th of May. From those days, in our editorial, we have been analyzing and verifying this information, but we receive proofs also from statements of Vladimir Trepakov. We received those documents at the beginning of this year. And for some time, I processed those documents. I engaged Anton Marchuk. He has been analyzing this document, the whole array of those data, so that the people can use this information, because just reading these 22 pages, you can't get an idea of what is it about, because different handwritings and some eligible places are present, and we should have received additional evidence. And Mr. Trepak, when he declared that those documents could be submitted to the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, then this was not about the leak of information. As soon as Mr. Trepak declared those documents submitted to the anti-corruption agency, then those people understood that these documents indicate that they proceed to be politicians, active politicians, and these violations of the legislation should be punished. And Sergiy also submitted those documents to specialized anti-corruption prosecutor. Mr. Trepak, we didn't coordinate our activities with him. We worked independently. I don't know when he received the same documents. We worked in parallel, but not in coordination. As for me, my position is the Party of Regions was in power, so the only source of their of those money could have been national budget only, and those money, they were siphoned from the budget for bribes. Are there any more questions? RBK Ukraine. Could you please detail expenditures for the Central Election Commission of Ukraine? You can see it in the document. You can see their surnames. For example, Mr. Okhendovsky and Ms. Lukash, they received bribes for their decision-making activities. Just there's special section in this document which is titled Central Election Commission. The document is published. You can see it. I have original on me. Kaluzhny, $2,200,000. This was money provided to Central Election Committee in order they makes set previously decisions, and it was before the parliamentary election campaign, so that the right party may win on the elections. Vitaly Sizov, TV of Donbass. How those money were turned into cash, and is it unique? Maybe Poroshenko bloc has the same of the book financial schemes. We don't know. How can we state that other parties have the same black records of the book records? From those days, there were not many changes in the activities of political parties in Ukraine, because even those laws which should have been adopted, they haven't been adopted. So the activities of other parties also require millions for their maintenance. This is the method of policy making in Ukraine, of political activities compared to formally declared expenditures. These of the book schemes could not be compared. So $100,000 were transferred for
international PR.
For international PR activities. A large area of information to be addressed and processed. We have not made special investigations of individual amounts or some making of analytical conclusions. Every journalist can make his own journalist investigation. You can see their prime minister's surname, and you can see their names of MPs and their deputies. Alexukhov Kiev Post newspaper. Those documents, they say they were on the desk in some security offices. We received those documents from anonymous sources. I don't think that these documents were in hands of law enforcement officers. I think they would have publicized them if they had them in hands. For example, some MPs from Svoboda Party and Radical Party, they made declarations yesterday that they are not engaged in these schemes. You can see all the pages now in my hands, and we published all the pages. If there are some further archives or some other pages of these documents, because here here we have also one period missing in this document. Maybe some people have those pages in their hands, so we call on them to provide these pages to us or journalists. And if Mr. Tripak has some further information in other documents, we call on him to publicize them. And some people understand, some deputies now understand that these documents are in third-party hands, and this could be very good archive just showing us patterns how political corruption looks like. Marina Shashkova, could you tell us how your anonymous source is linked with the Party of Regions? And the second question, much money have been provided to Nasha Ukraina, our Ukraine party. What you are expected to punish Yushchenko or to return those money? As concerned Yushchenko and his party, our Ukraine, there is about more than $1 million amount paid. There were some rumors those days that the Party of Regions paid its debts. For example, a payment from August 15, 2012. That is Geller, who is MP from and head of the committee from the Party of Legion, $395,000 were paid to Davidenko, an MP, third in the list of our Ukraine party. He was close to Mr. Kostenko, political figure. So, can some consequences be entailed, such as punishment? This may be just not to repeat such episodes, such cases further in the political life in Ukraine. As concerned sources where from we received those documents, I'm sure they were members, active members of the Party of Regions, maybe very close. Many assistants of MPs who were close to Geller and Kaluzhny, I think they were those days alleged of the book Financial Schemes of the Party of Regions. Maybe they were their assistants. I am sure that these documents are originals and they are not fraudulent. They're not faked. Very big area of very many people from very different areas. Ruslan Leschenko, Voice of America. What are the proofs that these documents are true? Is this the list where people signed for money received? Yes, this document includes signatures that these people received money. Andrei Rybakov was an MP and his signature is here. And you can see that we can see that his signatures in his official documents and in this document, they coincide. We can prove that his signature is true. So my money, the money have been paid, and then MPs signed for receipt of those money. You can look into those documents yourself on our website. Have you checked, have you verified the signatures with some other methods? identity could be proved except Kaluzhny and Rybakov was such member of parliament Demitka. He was in the group on positioning and promotion of party of regions. As concerned expert assessment, it should be done in the scope of investigation. Official expert assessment is not in our competence, it's law enforcement body's competence. So many expenditures really coincide with those articles of paid journalists published those days. We call on you to use your own efforts and review this document which we publicized. Those people, they should be interrogated in relevant law enforcement bodies. Are there any more questions? Last question, please. Dream Igor, I'm an activist. For your goals to be achieved, what should be result of this presentation of this document? As for me, I would like to initiate the discussion on transparent funding of political parties, and I also would like relevant legislation to be adopted which would prevent corrupt practices. The developments illustrate how political parties are funded in Ukraine. Party of Regions, it was unhappy because their office was set on fire. Maybe someone stole those documents when it was set on fire that day. This document is important for our Ukrainian political life to go to transfer to absolutely other rules of practices. Principle of expenditures for elections should be changed. The direct advertisement should be banned so that very large money do not enter politics. And for MPs, they should declare their real proceeds. Transparent funding of parties will change the discourse of political debates in the country. When party receive money and is involved in such corrupt practices, this is punishable according to the law which was adopted last year. Tatiana Bilek, Fifth Channel. You said that Mr. Leschenko made his statement as concerns these lists. And this concerns Svoboda Party. Tegnibok yesterday made statement that his surname could be used in this leakage of information. As concerns Mr. Tegnibok, please do not manipulate information. Mr. Tegnibok did not make any statements. I am his press secretary. He didn't do such declarations. Thank you for your declarations and for disseminated information. It is a good information, but please do not compare Mr. Tegnibok with Mr. Leschenko, because Mr. Tegnibok made no statements. Well, we just call on you to look how many comments were from Svoboda Party. Maybe if Svoboda Party would like to comment something or make some statements, you can initiate your own briefing. Department on Illustration had there is some information about judges of constitutional courts, they say. In what regime electronic declarations should be addressed? This question is now heard in the Constitutional Court. Do you know something about it? Yes, this is a risk, and my position is well known, and my position coincide with Sergey's position, which is well known, as concerned the contents of those documents of these 22 pages. Constitutional Court judges are not mentioned in this document. They could be mentioned in some documents which Mr. Trepak has on him. The law which provides for liability for such bribes, for political bribes, this law should become working. Constitutional Court judges, they are like double agents. They work for both parties, Poroshenko and parties of region. Thank you, dear guests. That's the end of our news briefing.